it over to Robin to introduce.
Thank you so much, Amy, and welcome everyone to We Amplified, Maximizing Influence for Collective Success. Today, we are going to explore what happens when individuals come together with a shared purpose. Transformative power can be leveraged to amplify influence, foster a sense of unity, and accomplish shared goals. We will embark on a journey to uncover the collective strength that emerges when professionals effectively collaborate, communicate, and harness the power of we to drive success. This entertaining and engaging keynote will not only empower you, but give you practical tips to maximize your influence collectively and achieve greatness as a united force. I am really excited to introduce my friend and colleague, Sherron Washington, who I have seen speak live, and you guys are in for a really exciting session today. So good to see you, Sherron. So I'm thrilled to introduce you. Ms. Washington is a marketing and communications professor at Trinity Washington University and Temple University, speaker and author who has imparted her wisdom and expertise for over 2 decades. She has an uncanny ability to develop simple, innovative, and results-driven marketing and communication. She is the founder and CEO of the P3 Solution, a full-service marketing and communications firm located in the Washington, D.C. area that specializes in providing simplistic marketing and communications consulting and training. Sherron has an extraordinary ability to create and cultivate environments that harness authentic interactions to generate synergy that flourishes into great vibes with captivating results. She uses a combination of her marketing and communications business acumen and expressive personality to create a distinctive and lasting presence that encourages and influences others to be more interactive. She understands the importance of remaining true in your communication efforts to facilitate interest and engagement and amplify results. Sherron, I'm so excited to hear you again today, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. Every time I hear my whole bio, I go, who is that? Who has done all of this? Who is that? So, thank you for, again, being collective and supporting me in my efforts, and all of you all, the planning committee, everyone here involved, participants, thank you for having me. So the first thing I want to say is that this is highly engaging. This is not just, oh my God, I'm on this training piece. She's going to talk at us. I'm going to talk with you, where you have real issues that can be or attempt to be solved right now in the moment. So don't be apprehensive to ask your questions. It is really a live discussion. And I like to remind people, I'm a professor. I volunteer very well, but I promise I won't put you on the spot if you don't want to. But use the chat freely. Definitely raise your hand if you want to join in the conversation. This is a discussion and not a lecture. So, in the good theme that you all have had for your training piece about leaders impacting, right? So, in being an impactful leader, we want to discuss how you can take your leadership, because we always think about leadership as a kind of individual effort. Initially, we go, you know what, leader, singular. We don't think of leadership in a way where it's inclusive of all of us can be leaders at one time simultaneously, and what that looks like. Today, I want to discuss and kind of build in tips and tools on how you can not just only amplify your own influence, but take that influence to actually affect the collective. So I love to think about the defining significance of we. We is definitely powerful. We in my life has been powerful. If anybody knows me, I'm always talking about my zodiac sign. And although I'm not deeply rooted in the zodiac sign, I feel like this reigns true. So I'm a Leo. And Leo, lioness, protective, individual, but lions running packs, all of those types of things. I take very, very seriously, right? I'm assertive in that way. If you have any Leo friends, I'm sorry. No, I'm just kidding. You got great people who in your life, but we also believe in that power of we. And we is defining when you think about what it can do for you. So the first piece I talk about all the time is kind of strength in opinion inclusivity. You don't have to, everyone does not have to have the same perspectives. That is the power in what a collective looks like. There are different perspectives, different goals, different ways to align things. And this is all about having inclusive opinions. You might say, Sherron, how can you have an opinion and it be inclusive at the same point? Because everybody's opinion matters. And so having differences of opinions can actually grow and help you to expand and help you to look at ways and solve problems that you had no idea that could be done in this way. So I think that the first piece to acknowledge in the power of we is kind of, it has that strength in kind of opinion inclusivity, okay? Second piece is it provides synergy. Man, have you ever been in a group before and you're building this synergy, you're working on projects and it feels absolutely right, and then you go in another group and it feels absolutely wrong, right? Well, that is because the synergy works in that group where it feels very, very right. And although synergy is kind of that space where it's almost natural in a sense, you can actually build in synergy by having a strong place of having that opinion inclusivity. All of that works together. If you allow perspectives to be heard and people are valued, that also creates synergy, right? The last, oh, not last, I have two more. So the third piece of this in the power of we is thinking about the pool of resources you have. When there's a we, like my Rolodex collectively is amazing. I have cartographers and event planners and signers and anything you can imagine. My resources have a large pool. And so I'm able to share and be impactful and be influential in sharing my resources. And so that is where the power comes from, not me, the individual. Some of these things I could do myself. However, there is power in actually knowing that I have a community, if you will, champions who are out there who can be resources as well. Lastly, the power of we works in a space called empowerment, right? And I always talk about kind of be your own hype man, but you need a hype group. You need a group of people to help you feel confident, feel definitely empowered to do more, to execute more. So there's really power in we. But first, we have to understand what influence looks like for the I, right? So when I talk about influence, I'm thinking about how individuals can inspire, motivate, and enable others to contribute towards a common vision. And I'd even edit this and say, sometimes the vision isn't so common, but make sure they're having contributions towards a vision. What influence is not, though, it's not a coercive space. So it's not the space where you are trying to manipulate people, right? You're trying to manipulate people to do what you want. Influence happens naturally. People want to do, they want to hang out with you. They want to ask you questions. They want to help you. They want to be impactful. So influence is not going to be coercive. Influence is also not going to be unidirectional. So what that just means is it's just not going to flow one way. Influence is effective on both sides. It should be mutually beneficial to each and every party, just not two, but if you have a group, it should be mutually beneficial. Thirdly, it is not always intentional. So we want to talk about authenticity. I talk about this all the time. There's a difference between keeping it real and keeping it authentic, okay? Influence lies in the space of authenticity. So it's not always going to be this kind of intentional space that you mean to be influential. Influential is also not going to always be positive, right? You can influence or encourage some things or some activities that you didn't even know that you did that may not be so positive. So we want to err on the side of making sure that we're being influential in a way that we can have a positive outcome or at least a mutually beneficial outcome, right? There are a few types, there's a lot of different types of influence, but these are my favorite three: social, charismatic, and expertise, right? These are where I can tell you my expertise lies in these three spaces of influence. I'm very social. I'm going to say hello. I don't know if I have any only children out there. So I was an only child until I was 20. Yes, my mom had a son when I was 20 years old, the same time I had a son at 20 years old. So I was an only child for a long time. And so I became very social. I am going to say hello. I am looking to be helpful. I'm looking to be impactful from a very early age, which actually sparked this charisma in me, because I'm able, where some of my friends are like, I don't even know how to make friends or how to connect or how to even be influential. What does that look like? It's easy for me because I've had tons of practice in doing it, and I actually want to do it. It is a feeling that I want to be impactful and positive in a space, right? I also use this kind of piece in being social and having charisma and getting knowledge. So if you know stuff, I found people like you when you know stuff, right? So in this space of not only me being social and having charisma, I had to gain some knowledge so that I would have some substance. So influence doesn't have to always be loud, even though, hey, my glasses, from my lipstick to my hair, if you meet me in person, I'm pretty much all over you. Hey, how can I help you? I'm pretty much loud. But influence does not have to be loud. You can have your own brand of influence in any one of these ways and more. So really think about, we're going to have you think about how you're influential. All right, so first activity, I want you guys to do is think of two people who who exhibit influence and why. You can either put that in the chat or you can actually raise your hand. Think of two people who exhibit influence and why. Come on, jump on in. Remember, I volunteer. Michelle Obama, star. Can you take yourself off mute and explain to us why Michelle Obama?
Sure. Why Michelle Obama? Because she is strong and confident and exudes warmth and competence. And she has, letters behind her name. She's very well educated.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Allison said Barack because he's a Leo. So is Madonna and a few other people too. Yeah, I pay attention. Anybody else? Beyonce, Taylor Swift. Okay. Who was that said Taylor Swift? Can someone, whoever said Taylor Swift, can they jump on and tell us why? Cheryl. Oh, Cheryl. Judith. Who said Beyonce? And Lauren, if you want to come up, let's talk about Judy Human.
Sure. I want Judy Human because she has this fearless kind of approach to speaking out, and she is a very strong orator. She's very to the point and concise, but also draws you in emotionally. to whatever she is discussing. I find that whenever I watch videos of her, she rolls into any conversation with a very high chin and very square shoulders. Like she just seems like she's completely aware of how competent and valuable she is to the conversation. And if there's any doubt that you would have about her, just completely dissipate.
I love that, Lauren. I love that. I love that there's an emotional connection that draws you in, right? Usually those people of influence, you see, they really draw you in. Look, I think that everyone has the power of influence to draw people in. And Cheryl, obviously you're a rock star here in this place, because you got a few kind of votes, Cheryl, that you're influential. And I love that, right? First time when I met you, I felt that way as well. So what happens here, you guys, is when you think about these two people that exhibit this influence, did you think about yourself? Many of us don't. Many of us don't see ourselves as influential, but you are in the slightest ways, in the largest ways, right? We're going to discuss that today so that you can figure out and be able to see just how influential you actually are. But oftentimes I ask this question, and at more times than not, there's not a soul in the audience that says themselves. We don't see ourselves as influential, and I want to dispel that myth today. All right? Because I believe that we begins to you with you. You can't have you can't have we without you. So we begins with understanding who you are and how you actually are influential in the space. So today's learning goals, I call them learning goals, learning objectives, discussion points, whatever you want to refer this to. We're going to talk about how to unlock your own influence. We're going to go through my, what I call I got analysis, right? I got influence. We're going to talk about how to take that influence and leverage the influence collectively. And then we're going to talk about how to activate that. Now, we're going to have a breakout piece, like a small kind of breakout session. And I realized in some of the breakouts, because the time is going by so fast, that everyone may not get a chance to talk in the breakouts. That is okay. We can put it in the chat and add it to our robust discussion. So don't worry about if you get into the breakout session and you're not heard. Definitely put it in the chat and we can put it out there. Okay. All right. So let's start with unlocking your influence, right? And I like to do an influence analysis. As energetic, as charismatic, as knowledgeable as I am, I often go, how can I enhance that space? How can I amplify my influence? Okay, so I like to do what I call is an influence analysis, and that's just really assessing your influence so that you can understand how to improve your impact and kind of build stronger relationships or achieve personal and professional goals more effectively. I saw the survey results and I saw things as like conflicting goals and how to build relationships and different things, and understanding your influence, how you actually affect what happens in the collective helps you to amplify what the collective looks like. So we're going to go through this process. So again, it's my I got analysis. I got influence, right? Influence, gaps, opportunities, and threats. And if you guys are familiar with SWOT analysis, there's SWOT analysis for all types of things: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. This is no different than that, of you assessing where your influence starts. And so When I think about the I, definitely the I is for influence. You want to think about how does your influence positively impact others, right? What kind of influence do you have? Like I mentioned energy, I got energy. I have a Rolodex that I want to share. I have resources. So what kind of influence do you actually have in the now, internally, that you can actually make a change to, or that you have, that you go, I'm brilliant. And it could just be one. It doesn't have to be many. One is enough, right? Once you figure that out, we go into the gaps. And I don't like to, in the SWOT analysis, there's a W for weakness. I don't call it weakness. I think it's enhancement, improvement, but not weakness. In here, I call it a gap. What's missing, right? What barriers are impacting me to actually be influential or be more influential in some cases, okay? So we're going to think through that. The O, of course, is for opportunities, right? Like, what can you do to capitalize on your influence? And it's usually looking at how can I close the gaps? So I have these gaps. Well, what opportunities do I have to close these gaps? Can I meet more people? Can I start talking more? Can I start being more sociable? Do I need more information so I can pass my knowledge on to be more influential? And lastly, because this is important in the entire process, it's kind of understanding what are those external obstacles that would impede the influence. And that could actually be self-doubt. That self-talk sometimes impedes on how you'll be influential. I give this example a lot of times. I am traveling, I speak in strange places sometimes. Sometimes I don't know a soul. Lately I've been knowing people, but usually I don't know a soul. And self-doubt creeps up sometimes that tells you that imposter theory, you don't belong. This isn't your place. What if you do bad? All of these things creep up. And so they can be considered as external obstacles that can impede how I'm going to be influential. So think about those threats so you can figure out how to thwart them, okay? So we're going to do this activity. I call it assessing your influence, right? Assessing your influence. We're going to take that I got analysis right now, and you're going to think about or jot down your feelings in those spaces. And then we're going to share out, okay? So the first piece is, of course, the I for influence. So we're talking about influence and gaps. And these are external things, internal things that you have control of, right? So I want you to first think about what external attributes, skills, or talent do you possess to raise your influence? And I'll give you a minute or so to do that. Cheryl, I see you. I mean, they gave you a bunch of stuff, Cheryl. I see you kind of thinking.
I'm
You don't have
thinking.
to think. Cheryl, it's right there for you. It's right there for you. In the next piece, so you have what you do well, right? Now, and this may take a little bit more thinking, and if you don't have the answers right now, it is okay. But what internal barriers are impacting your ability to influence? Okay, so it could be, you have so many things, conflicting interests, right? You have so many things that you think about that could stop you from your ability to influence, or you may be shy. You may say, hey, I'm not motivated to have conversations or to build influence that way. By the way, you not engaging is still communicating influence in some way. So we might as well get the goodness of it, right? So think about those gaps that are impacting your ability to influence. Give about 20 seconds for that. I would even tell you that sometimes I think about energy level, right? My energy level sometimes impedes my ability to influence. I make sure I have plenty of coffee. Coffee is the key. It's key for all things. Okay. So next in this activity, we want to take a look at the opportunities and threats. So I want you to look at your gaps that you wrote down. What openings exist to help you close that gap and elevate your influence? So, okay, energy level, maybe motivate. I'm not motivated. There's an opportunity to build your motivation so that you can be more influential, so that you can have things align with your goals, have more synergy, definitely be more innovative. So what are some openings to help you close those gaps? Then lastly, I want you to think about what external barriers could impede you from closing those gaps. See, the reason why I want you to think about the threats is so that you can karate chop, you can get rid of them, okay? So you go, nope, you know what? If that's the worst thing can happen, I got a solution for that. So it's good to assess what will stop you from actually executing on those opportunities. It's important. Okay. So here's what I want you to do to map out this influence. So choose an opportunity. If you have a few, choose one. Choose one. We're going to work on it this week. Choose one, an opportunity to close the gap. So choose a gap and then choose an opportunity to help you close that gap, right? I'm going to be more motivated. Here's what I'm going to do. The first part of this is to be intentional, okay? Be intentional in understanding how you're going to be influential, right? Think about how you can execute on that. Oh man, this is going to be wonderful for me. And I want it to be realistic. So don't look at the gaps that you're not going to do, and don't have gaps that compare you to other people's influence. That's somebody else's wow factor. What's your wow factor that's realistic to what you want to do, where you see yourself, right? Usually I do this activity and I love this activity. I have other people look each other down. You're like, what? What is this, Sherron? Check each other out and figure out what type of influence they have in the moment. Because first impressions are lasting impressions, right? So that could be the way they dress, if they're smiling, if they're not smiling. People have all of these suggestions. And most of the time, if the other person isn't being intentional in their positivity, they're wrong, right? So if you see someone with a scowl on their face, you're thinking unapproachable, when really maybe they just had some bad coffee, or they haven't had their coffee yet, right? But it is important to understand what you are actually putting out in the world to be influential. It's not by accident or chance. You do want to make it a space that it's regularly practiced so that you can have some positivity, so that people will feel synergy and the love and they want to connect with you. This is what happens with leadership. Leaders, great leaders lead with influence, not hierarchy. So you don't want to lead with your title. You want to be a leader because you are influential. Okay. The last piece of this influential map, and this is why I said it must be realistic. You must do it. So plan, you got to do it. You can say it all you want to, but you must do it. So what I want you to do is to commit to yourself, right? And if you connect with me, then I'll check on you to see if you're doing what you're supposed to do, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to commit to 7 days of doing this one thing, of choosing this one piece of influence and being intentionally influential, and see how it changes. What changes actually occur? I'm betting there is going to be more innovation, more people wanting to work with you, talk to you, knowing, and more could be too. It may not be drones, it may not 30, 40, it may be two people that, oh, okay, well, Sherron I like this, she's amplifying this. Oftentimes I try to, so what I'm going to do with this influential map is actually help people to find connections in their spaces authentically. So whether that be helping a job, finding a speaker opportunity, but I'm going to be more influential of asking people what they need help with and actually doing it. Okay. Any questions, you can put them in the chat before we move to the next piece. Any aha moments or light bulb moments that you had with understanding your own influence? Amy, you have any aha moments?
I don't know if, an aha moment, but I think that it was, I think it's important to kind of be reminded that you really don't tend to think of yourself as influential, but you do have more influence than you typically think. And so spending some time actually thinking about in what ways am I influential and how am I helpful to others, which is part of what influence is, I think has been very important. I'm glad you're here today.
No worries. So Allison is asking about the activity. So Allison, what you can do, I like to do it with strangers or friendly strangers. Although people say stranger danger, right? So not too many strangers, but more so with people who are not familiar with you, but they see you. You can actually ask them, hey, give me 2 characteristics of who do you believe me to be? You will be surprised what people say, right? Now, I'm intentional about my energy because I want people to feel energetic. When you leave me, I want you to feel impactful, that you can rock the world. I always want to do that. And if that doesn't happen, I'm usually sad that I didn't impact you in that way. But my intention is that when I touch you, when I talk to you, when you meet me, that I have made some type of one, it's not many, it doesn't have to be many, but one type of impact. So just ask Allison, hey, give me 1 to 3 characteristics of who you believe I am. Or you can ask some people who are familiar with you and tell them it won't work if they're not honest. They have to be honest, right? So that you can know what you're putting out in the world. Or you can ask someone, hey, hey, give me 1 or 2 characteristics that I provide when you first met me. Can you remember that? Okay. Sarah says that she thinks it's important to remember that influence can have a positive or negative impact on the group. Absolutely. And you absolutely doing nothing can sometimes still be influential. So you want to make sure that you can control that space as much as possible, right? Lauren feels like that as a woman, she's conditioned to not acknowledge her influence out loud, even though I have evidence backing me up. Lauren, here's the word. You don't need evidence to back you up. You have it. You are your evidence. You don't need to validate your greatness because you know that you are great. And I agree that many times women are like discouraged from having to be loud. See, we're even calling it loud about our influence. But if you don't tell it, you're relying on other people to tell it for you, and they may never do that. So it's important that you see yourself as influential and be able to, tell it. I give everyone permission, if you want my permission, to definitely share. Even in this chat, you can share how influential you are. Give some characteristics of how badass you actually are. Do it. Put it, I'm great, I'm energetic, just think about the characteristics that you want to offer and be able to celebrate that. That's one piece in there that you can understand, that if you know it, you're able to be intentional and you're able to capitalize on it. Okay. This is a great segue to actually understanding the influence to leverage how to amplify the we. Because if you don't know your lane, your role in this amplification of influence, then you're not going to be able to do it very, very well. So it's important to know it so that you can amplify the group and charge up the group. Okay. So the first piece of this is kind of cultivating that we mindset. Your mind has to be set on collectively we can get this done. Collectively, it is necessary that we work together to get this done because everybody values one another, right? So you want to reinforce the we mindset. I would say even in this time of day, and I turned 50 last year, right? Woo-hoo. And I realized that I was celebrating a lot of individuality. I did this and I did this and I did this. When in actuality, it is because of the collective, my collective resources, my ability to be social, my ability to have charisma and be able to connect with people. It is the we that have helped elevate my status. So I'm reinforcing, even when I'm talking in class, I'm telling my students, you must enforce this we mindset. Sure, my students are like, but it's my grade. Great. But if everyone is helping everyone, then the grade collectively will be incredible. It is proven. It helps. So we have to start reinforcing that we mindset so that we can be able to empower others. It's important. If I think of the collective, think about I want to help the next person, then the next person thinks about how they want to help the next person, and so forth and so on. You are building. Someone's going to help you, and that creates the we. So we never get lost upon that space of not being empowered if everyone is doing their job, right? And this sounds cliche-ish. You're like, Sherron, I'm in the clouds with this. Great, right? It really happens. Start with the small circle, right? Start to empower each other circularly. Departments, your membership groups, whatever that looks like, but make sure the mindset of we resonates through the empowerment, right? So that you can encourage open dialogue. And so I'm not one of those communication professors that are going to tell you that everything's going to be kumbaya. We're going to shake hands. We're going to live in this land together and love everything that we say. Absolutely not. But what it does do is it helps to encourage a more open dialogue so that you'll feel comfortable in having kind of sometimes very difficult and challenging conversations, but it's still inclusive of the we. Okay. So you want to think about this too, where you want to think about how to leverage your influence for the we, more of applying your influence to inspire others towards achieving shared goals, right? So you want to think about this in a space where how can I help other people fulfill their goals that absolutely helps me? Again, I'm thinking about mutual beneficial things, right? So is it I hope I'm saying it right, Darcy Robb. So Darcy says she thinks that the we mindset is so critical to work as DD councils. It's almost impossible to go it alone. Look, that's in many industries. I'm not going to say every, but many industries, at least the industries that I've worked in, and I've worked in from construction to financial to event planning, right? That it is crucial to build a we mindset, because the I mind, first of all, you guys, it is so taxing to do it alone. You get headaches, there's problems, right? You're stressed. You want to take that stress off of you so that you can be able to leverage kind of your influence in the we. So stabilizing your mind to think we is better than I helps to facilitate a less stressful environment, in my opinion, right? Okay, so you want to think about these strategies for leveraging the influence. So you have your influence, yet collectively on the we. Here's a few strategies for leveraging that influence. First off, how are you fostering a culture of empowerment? So in the chat, I want you all to think about, how are you fostering a culture of empowerment? And that could be a culture in your department, like I said, could be your membership groups, could be the councils that you're in, could be outside of this. What are some examples of you fostering a culture of empowerment? What are you doing? Anyone? If you want to raise your hand and come up, you can too. Training. So Janet, so you're training people to foster a culture of empowerment. Hey, I'm training, whatever that might be. That's good. Giving people knowledge to make their own decisions. I like it. So you're empowering them to actually be free thinkers, right? Jill says she likes to ask for help. Let's see, they're coming fast. I like this. I like to ask for help, encouraging others to share their expertise. Me too. I'm all in it, Jill. I want to know what's happening. I want all the information so that I'm able to be versed in how to help. Okay. So there's some others. Let's see here. Creating a safe space for encouragement. Absolutely. That's definitely important, Carla, in these days, is that you're creating a safe space for encouraging empowerment. Okay, so the next piece in this is thinking about, how are you building strong coalitions? Now, I use social media a lot to build strong coalitions. Even though I have services to sell and things like that, I am more about building the relationship, right? I have work associates, friends, all compiled in the same space where I can ask for favors or not, right? They can ask me for favors. They can talk to me. Hopefully, I'll get many of you to connect with me so we could do the same. And we build a coalition so that we can actually empower and be powerful for one another. It is so that I can be able to help people. Really, I'm talking to people. So I'm like, what do you do? So I can be able to help you. And I don't know if it's just the spirit in me that guides me to do that. Or it gives me joy. I don't know what's most important, but I know that it is something that I have to do. So what are you doing to build strong or stronger coalitions? Anyone? Okay, so I'll move to the next one so that we can talk about, and if you're building strong coalitions and you want to add that to that, go right ahead, all right? The second piece is kind of share and mobilize the resources. And I think once you build trustworthy coalitions, it's easy to share and mobilize the resources. So I want to get real with you all when we talk about leadership. How often are you sharing and mobilizing your resources? In or outside of your department or your area of expertise? Your influence does not just have to be in one space. You can expand that and amplify that and make sure that that is happening in other areas and other pieces. All right. So we got some more comments. So Sarah said, coalition building, we're rebuilding our relationships and rebuilding trust with community partners after actively separating for years, right? Going back to re-engage, that's a good one for sharing strong coalitions. And these are good strategies for leveraging your influence. Increase communications and connections within our network with intentional time to talk and plan. Look, the best place for leveraging your influence is in hello. When's the last time you said hello to partners, to potential partners? Saying hello and not just for the reason of, hey, I need you to do something, actually helps to build that strong, those strong coalitions, right? Tidra says being intentional about engaging people with lived experience, right? I think that it's important that your intention to connect with people is just that. I just want to build a connection. If we get back to building connections without a specific purpose other than the purpose of connecting, we'll find synergy within those coalitions. So these are great ones. Thank you guys for sharing these strategies and feel free to share more, right? Okay, so we're going to do this breakout activity that I love. We're going to do this for 7 minutes. So you'll be in the breakout activity. And remember, I told you guys, if you don't always, you all get to share, it's okay. So many of the times that when we talk about leveraging influence, it's difficult to ask in the ask. So I want you to think about your influence, your source of influence, and how you can be an assistant to your collective we. And all that means is that in your breakout group, you guys are going to now ask for help, whether that be recommendations, whether that be how are you so influential? How are you so energetic? How do you get your energy up? You're going to ask for help to fill those gaps so that you can enhance and amplify your influence. Okay, so does anyone want to share their aha moment? Any aha moments?
I could share. So this is Kevin White. I'm with the DC Developmental Disability Council. I think that our aha moment was that like we was probably stuck in a way. The reason why the reason why is because I know that like we were just discussing about what it means for our DD Council and the work that we're doing. Like we really value the work of trying to make individuals with disabilities shine. And where that our basic stuff, I know that our Don Tree for Hawaii stated that like she used a little common phrase that like that we want to work with disability people and we want them just to be part of our work in a way. And we want them to be shining. We want them just to feel like empowered. So we were just discussing that in our group.
Nice. Thank you for sharing, Kevin. I saw Allison's hand. Allison, what did you want to share?
I know I raised it and then Kevin started talking and I was like, oh, Kevin's got it.
Oh, okay, great. So you all were in the same
whatever
group.
I could say even better. So
Perfect. If you all have anything to share, believe me, please share in the chat. It is collective. When we talk about this collective moment, you guys, it is important that you provide your perspectives for others to see what is working for them so that you can try it out to work for you. Sure, I could give you plenty of different tips that work for me, but collectively, you all are a group, right? You all are in your industry there to help one another. So who not to get best practices from, but yourselves as well. So if you didn't share or you're feeling a little apprehensive about sharing, I'm coming up to share. By the way, again, thanks, Kevin. then please feel free to place it in the chat. So Maria says an aha moment in the group was that the statement "we" is greater than me. I love it, right? Yes. So I talked about having theme music to help build confidence. I like to give things that are not on the grid that you haven't heard. So if any of you have a gap where you're having a gap in your influence because of self-confidence, because the lack of self-confidence, I gave one solution is to get you some theme music. All right. I have theme music that pumps me up when you're not feeling so confident. It helps to speak life into you. It helps to actually influence you. So that person is now in the song is now influencing who you are or who you want to be. So get you some daily theme music to start off the day with. Okay. All right. So we talked about our influence, how to find our influence, and then how to take that influence and leverage it in the we. Okay, so I'll share one more thing before I move on. So Sarah says in her group, councils seem to act independently or with grantees as main partners, but not broadly in a disability community as an active partner. How can you facilitate? So here's a solution to that problem is to understand how you can facilitate better relationships so that they would feel not just, we don't want obligation. We want active encouragement and empowered to actually work with you as an active partner, right? Because it could be that they're just used to, they've gained a relationship with maybe an individual or that organization. It could be that. And so it's about building the relationships so that you can create a practice, a good practice in that we want to engage as an active partner too, okay? Try not to, this is a difficult try, but try not to take it personal when things aren't working. Find an empathetic way to kind of work in building the relationships so that you all can leverage the partnerships. Because sometimes it's just familiarity. Sometimes it's just familiarity. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few tips because we're almost over. It's almost 15 minutes done and we're done, right? So one of the things I want to talk about in this space, or give you some hacks, is how to activate your influence for the we, okay? So one of the pieces, and we talk about leadership, is activating that power. We is kind of energizing and leveraging the collective strength. It is what I suggested to Sarah, right? Is that you want to figure out how to energize that group and how to encourage that group to actually work with you. Is that building individual relationships so that you can build in the we, taking your influence of either connection or energy or using someone in the collectives group, magical powers of influence or connection to actually get an in so people can feel comfortable, but find a way that involves energizing and in leveraging the we, right? Figure out to have the discussions with other councils or individuals on how building we makes you guys stronger, having collective resources makes you stronger, and having capabilities of a group that can unify a goal. It is important to understand how is it going to be beneficial for them to work with you. Okay, so that is how you work within the power of influence. A couple of ways to do that is maximize we for the win. All the time, every time, or most of the time, whenever you can maximize we collective thought, do it, right? If it's going to be a little time consuming, doesn't matter. I think we is better than me. Someone said that, right? We is better than the me. We is better than me. I may use that and then give you guys credit, right? So make sure that you're maximizing the larger collective for the win. Think optimistically. Yes, there are going to be barriers and challenges, but you want to think more optimistic. How can we maximize working together so that we can work smarter, not harder? Normalize collaboration, right? Some of you all are going, I already collaborate. But do you? Really define what collaboration looks like. And collaboration isn't we all are doing the same thing. It's not one aligned mindset. It is multiple and diverse thoughts coming together for a common goal. So make sure you're normalizing collaboration, right? Often, okay? Next, acknowledge your gaps so you can leverage your diverse strengths. Hardest thing for people to do. I'm a senior exec. I am in groups with senior execs, and I can tell you this, sometimes with the senior executives, it is hard for people to say, I don't know that, because often you may feel you might be weak, or someone might look at you in a way that's not going to be in a way where it's then you're not going to make you feel like you're a leader in this space. And honestly, being authentic to acknowledging your gaps helps for vulnerability in a group so you can build out what your diverse strengths may be. Understanding what lane and what role you play doesn't mean, so gaps don't mean bad things. It just means that that may not be your lane. That may be someone else's lane. And I like that, because I don't want to have all the things and all the talent and everyone relies on me. It is really sharing the burden and the load. And so acknowledging that, hey, that is not my place, or that's not my lane. I have a friend that always says, that's not my ministry, right? Understanding where your strengths are and how it helps the group, or strength, singular, doesn't have to be several, but understanding your strength to the group is way more important than saying you're going to be super strong for the group, right? I think this is Jill. Jill says, this is really timely. We're trying to figure out how to motivate our council members to see themselves as a we that can assert influence versus the staff as action takers, influencers. One way I would say this, Jill, is kind of allowing them, especially we have a lot of mirrors, right? Allowing some of the council members to kind of lean into their wow factor, right? Like, what is it that you do well? Encourage and influence them to be in that space that helps the collective. It is important to see how your piece, not you having a large, not you, Jill, you, but the general you, not you having all the pieces to the puzzle, but how important your one piece to the puzzle helps the collective. You want to align your influence with your goals. Again, this goes back to kind of this singular piece of understanding where you belong in this lane. You want to think about how to align that influence. Where do I insert energy? So I think about my influence, and sometimes my energy isn't necessary, doesn't help to move along the goals, right? Sometimes I could be I'm in groups with my peers and I'm assertive. I have to tell myself, look, acknowledging my gaps. It's time to be quiet, because that is not going to help or align with how the common or shared goal will be. So it's understanding where my strengths, where my influence should be inserted, right? Being able to control and understand how to align my influence with my goals, right? So Valerie says, sometimes volunteering yourself to do something a partner needs help with you gives you the ability to start. Absolutely, right? You volunteer yourself. Hey, let me help you with this. Let me help you with this, or here's some information, without stepping on toes, because I know sometimes that happens, that when people volunteer themselves to help on a thing, somebody may say, okay, I got it. But again, we have to go back to actually leaning into that we mindset so people can feel valued and included and want to be in that we mindset, all right? Okay. I'm telling you all about relationship building. This is top priority for me. Cultivating your circle of influence. So not just having the circle, the circle's there, but cultivating. What does cultivating, if I have any gardeners out there, you know, you got to till the soil. I think that's the term. If I got it mixed up, please correct me. But you have to move the soil around to be able to grow and build something that's beautiful. The same happens with your circle and influence. In order for you to build influence and have a collective group of influencers, you have to cultivate it. My way of cultivating is check-ins. I do check-ins a whole lot. Check-ins when I don't need stuff, right? So that I can keep that relationship, at least me in their mind, spinning as much as I can, right? Hello, again, it's nothing wrong with saying hello to cultivate that circle of influence. Lastly, which I think sometimes this is a little difficult for us, right? We got to assess, relearn, and then adapt, right? So you're assessing and relearn to adapt. We want to be agile in our mind because we takes a lot of patience, empathy, tolerance, etc. So we want to assess our influence all the time. I would say assess your influence maybe even once a year, twice a year, right? I do it kind of every quarter. How am I being impactful in the groups that I'm in? I'm in committees, I'm on boards, I speak. I'm assessing where my influence is making an impact and having to relearn and adapt, right? I gave you guys the example of me being very, very energetic, and I always want to help, like, hey, how can I help you? But sometimes that can be a little off-putting for people. So I had to assess that and be able to relearn how to adapt my other pieces of influence to kind of be impactful and not so aggressive. I certainly definitely encourage you guys to do the same, to think about how to, and you can use that influence analysis, right? How are you being influential in this group, and how are you relearning other ways to adapt so that you can be influential to the group? All right. So, you know, I think about this in this we space again. It begins with you. Understanding your influence to affect the group, to influence, to encourage, to impact the group, right? You want shared purpose and aligned goals, and you want to be able to be comfortable where people have safe spaces where they feel inclusive. This is absolutely important in influence, right? The most important piece, if you don't forget, if you don't remember one thing, hopefully you got one thing going on that you remember, but this is the one thing that I want all of you to remember, that influence does not, or leadership does not happen with hierarchy. It happens with influence. So effective leadership is not because of your title or where you stand or because you don't have a title. It actually is affected by the influence, the impact that you provide to people. So I like to ask this question at the end of my selection: what happens when influence meets a shared purpose? And so what I want you to do, usually we're in a group and we're holding hands so that you all can actually see the web of influence. But I want each and every one of you in the chat to actually type, I got your back, I have your back. And it'll start with me. Oh, if I could spell it. I have your back, I have your back, I have your back. We are creating, when influence meets shared influence, shared purpose, you create this web of we that has synergy, innovation, trust, mutual support, interconnections, growth, and unity. I want each of you that you don't take this commitment to having each other's back very lightly, that each of you in the group, as leaders, You will commit to going, to asking for help, and actually having support, creating innovative thought, making people feel valued, building in interconnectiveness so that you all can have a growth opportunity to be unified.